Have I told you about the app that we're launching in May? It's an AI powered self discovery coach, and the feedback that we're getting has been crazy. Let me give you some. It literally felt like I was talking to a therapist. I loved it. Someone even shared an example of how they used it. So I told the app I don't like confrontation, and that's why I often don't know how to talk to others about how I feel because I don't like arguing. I loved how it literally walked me through how I can start a conversation without feeling like it was going to be a confrontation. Someone else. Love, love, love it. Congrats again. This is going to be great. It launches in May, and I couldn't be more hyped for you to use it. If you haven't already and you want to be the first one to be able to use this, sign up for the app launch waitlist, which is in the show notes, or you can visit our website at plural.com.
Griff was able to be himself, be comfortable, be vulnerable, and we built brotherhood. A lot of gay black men seek that. Griff felt comfortable to see me for me, change his behaviors to create space for me in that locker room where I'm outside drunk yelling at Hyro about why he shouldn't use the N-word, trying to enlighten him, and I'm like, well, I'm hitting on him. And I'm sorry, Hyro, by the way, because I didn't know what I was doing, because I wasn't afforded to explore that opportunity. And so a lot of gay black men seek the relationship and the ability that we're even doing right now. They might be confused in their head as they hear this, because they're like, why did he get that? And so it is a gift to be able, I'm a black man, I'm an alpha. I'm treated like it because Griff's around, and he would bring me to parties and I would get super drunk and fuck it up, but like, I wanted to fit in, but I didn't know how. And now I know how because he's been so patient with me. That's what it's like. That's like the biggest superpower of all, to be patient and humble when your brother continuously makes the same mistake that you don't understand why you would do it. And it's like, well, he knows me. He knows that I wasn't afforded any opportunity to really dissect and learn things emotionally. And I love him for that.
Yeah.
And like, it's literally saved my life. Like, I'm allowed to be a brother of this house authentically, because if Griff's around, oh, he gonna let you know.
Mi gente, dímelo, dímelo, what's good? You already know. It's a familiar voice. It's your boy Pavel, bringing you another episode of the Quién, Eres podcast. And it's actually been a minute since I've introduced an episode. And I'm actually not going to introduce this episode. I'm not going to go through Jordan's bio, because these days I'm just like, let me get straight into the conversation. That said, this conversation is a little different, or the conversation went a little different than the typical episodes. And we get into a lot of sensitive, vulnerable life experiences. So before getting into today's episode, I want to insert a trigger warning. During the conversation, there are mentions of domestic violence, child abuse, ableism, and homophobia. There's actually a reference to gun violence. Just want to offer that trigger warning ahead of time in case that is a sensitive subject for you and you don't want to potentially relive a traumatic experience that you might have had as well. That said, I obviously recommend you listen to it. It's a really dope conversation. And I want to give a shout out to Jordan, who is a fan from the jump since launching the show and a big continuous supporter of the show. So I'm glad that we were able to finally get him on it. That said, you have the trigger warning, you have the clip from this week's episode. Now let's get into the full conversation. Tell me about where you said you grew up. Like, where did you grow up?
I grew up on a farm in Washington State, in rural Eastern Washington.
Not DC.
No. Notice how I said Washington State?
Yeah.
I had to learn that when I came here. Because I'm very smart, I'm highly aware, situational awareness, computational awareness. I work in cognitive and emotion AI. So as a child, I wasn't afforded opportunities to understand why I was supposed to be aware. I just had to know everything and be right all the time. Otherwise, I got hit. Literally, physically, metaphysically, emotionally, sexually, all sorts of abuse.
Hit why?
Because I was wrong.
About what?
Great question. Ask Jennifer, my mother, white woman, who didn't have the tools to explain, because my dad is a drug addict and alcoholic who was in jail for the first 13 years of my life. So they were and on a farm where I'm the first non-white member of my family, meaning my older brother is phenotypically white. But if I didn't tell you that and preface it, and I just said his name is Kareem Curtis Clark, He is a 6'7". My brother with a size 21 or 22 too, right? You just think some NBA star.
Yeah.
Right, I do it all the time.
Yeah.
I would talk to my brother all the time because he played football and he voted for Trump, and like he writes country music, in which I'm changing my tone because Beyonce writes country music. At which point, I love country music too. Hey brother, you wrote a song, right? Like, it was just being aware of not how you can use people. I'm a connector, but how you can leverage your connections. Well, that's my brother. He's
But
my
how you
older
describing your brother, and like, if you would put like the description and then what he looks like, we would never.
No,
Yeah.
that's why I love it. It's power. Racial ambiguity is what I call it. I'm a black man.
Yeah.
And when I grew up, I was always black. Like, because no one questioned it. No one asked. We have conversations about the diaspora and like why I sounded and why I did what I did.
Wait, but if you equate that to power to him, what did you equate your blackness early on to you?
Right. I had to learn that one though. Like when I came here, like
Well, early on, before you came to like Northeast, like what did you equate it to?
Slavery, racism.
It wasn't a positive.
No, like because my older brother, like it was one of those like we grew up in such poverty that we did like poor white people poverty. Like I grew up in a trailer park.
Really?
Yeah. Like I like 8 Mile.
No way.
Yeah, but worse than that on film. Not in Detroit, not with the city where there were other black people on a farm. Where I was the only one, me and my brother and sister, and my older brother. But my older brother's phenotypically white. So you would just think he was a white man. He was socialized to be a cisgendered, heteronormative white man. At which point he was socialized to speak with privilege and walk around, do what he wanted. Like no one explained on a metacognitive level that like if you want to try to be like your older brother in like a trans. Rachel Dozier is from Spokane.
Oh, yeah.
That's where I went to high school.
Yeah.
Rachel Dozier explains my mom, Jennifer, perfectly. And embarrassingly. Because, like, what black boy wants to hear locker room talk about their mom who has an OnlyFans with only black men?
Well, your mom had OnlyFans?
No, that wasn't around. The internet was not around. I'm trying to describe her in modern day terms without using a word I said I wouldn't use. Starts with a W and ends in or.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But like a white woman who loves black men because she wants to find black men to help raise me. So she's seeking it out. But not in ways that people are talking about it. I've been doing metacognitive psychotherapy for 11 years to uncover this.
But is that something, that's just something you observed rather than being spoken to, like, I'm looking for this to raise you?
Because I had to understand, well, why did she bring these men around who abused me?
Wow.
And she didn't explain it because she was seeing it differently. They told her, well, we need to beat the gay out of him. So I'm like highly aware of like being like having invisible disability, being in the closet. Oh, I was hiding. I had to learn to hide aspects of my identity because like kids at school, well, first of all, what happened at home stays at home. So immediately I was trained to disassociate. And so if you grow up in Spokane, it's a wonderful community if you've experienced poverty because there's like an attempt at equity. Is still very like predominantly white. Like I lived at the bottom of the South Hill. The higher you went up, the more rich. Like just one of those cliche like rich people at the top.
On the hills, yeah.
That's where we went for Halloween trick or treating. They had full size candy bars, and then they open the door, and you're like, wow, you have a half court basketball, and then it's like some kid in your class, and you're like, oh wow, you don't talk about that. He's like, yeah, I don't even use it. I'm like, wow.
Was that aspirational or depressing?
I had to pretend it was aspirational. Well, I learned it. I was socialized for it to be aspirational because I wasn't allowed to be depressed. I'm black.
Right.
At which point you get hit for not moving. Like don't get me wrong. There was love and like I had opportunities to like learn like balance, but like my sister has schizophrenia because it's very hard to condition a child where you're not explaining why you're hitting them. You're just expected to know it. And then if you grow up on a farm. It's really hot, so I need to switch. Yeah. On a farm and you're poor, but we have thousands of acres. We mainly sold cattle.
That's such a fascinating concept.
Right.
Because poverty in New York, in my standpoint, is like, we don't even have a yard.
Right.
And if you got a yard, it's like, yo, you made it. Mm-hmm. So to be in poverty, but also have thousands of acres is such a weird concept to me.
Welcome to white people poverty.
Yeah.
So my story allows bridge so you can understand and like communicate to a whole new audience that's like, wait a minute, who are these two black men? I'm like, well, actually, he's Dominican, that's Latinx, I think, depending on, or he could be black.
Black.
Depending on how you identify. See? Real quick, New York. Respectfully, but just like awareness of, well, I don't want to be disrespectful, but like, I would not allow my phenotypically white brother or my mom or dad, or well, not my dad, my white side of the family to disrespect you. Why would you assume he's black?
Interesting. Wait, but let's get back
Yeah,
into
so on the farm,
living on a
when
farm.
you grow up in poverty on the farm, you're not allowed to make mistakes. You literally can't afford it. You fuck up the thing, you're gonna get beat. But it was also rooted in like post-traumatic slave syndrome, bridge connection of like, well, white supremacy, like you would whip and beat slaves in like a you would treat them like cattle, chattel slavery. So psychologically, they would just you could herd them. Like this whole literature and you can, like I was African American Studies major in Northeastern. I was the only one, like when I joined, but whole different conversation. So I'm just growing up, being afforded the opportunity to be like a Barack Obama, like the first non-white member of my family. But like, my mom does not, like she grew up on a farm and ran away. And like literally, that's why I exist this way. Cause my grandpa came with a shotgun to get her. And like my dad and like held a shotgun to his head. It's like, get in his truck, you go, like on some like hillbilly shit. And Beverly Hill, like, I know Beverly Hillbillies, I think it was called, or like, it's an old movie with like about hillbillies, but white people. But I love that shit. Like, but it was like there's so much racism rooted in it. But like it's Daisy Dukes. But I'm like, oh well, that's racist. But like that was just what I was socialized to view as like funny and like the way that like hillbillies can stick it to the man. And so I grew up like that. Very proud people though. So we have all this land. We work hard. So like. It was like my imagination, my playground. There's not much that you do when you're a young kid on the farm. You just run around, do stupid shit, play around. Like, but it's the same in New York, but like less dangerous, different danger though.
Sure.
You get your hands stuck in a tractor,
Right.
It's gone.
So you like worked on the farm as well?
Like by like chores.
Okay. Yeah. Like what are farm chores?
Thank you, because I was like, you said worked. I was like, well, I wasn't a slave literally, but metacognitively I was.
Yeah. Like what are
literally I would like, because I was younger. We left the farm in second grade.
Okay.
So like whatever age you are when you get there. So I think that age.
You like cleaning poop and?
Well, no, but like chucking hay and picking up what we call them cow patties. Like when
you call them cow patties?
We would throw them at each other.
What?
Yes.
Okay. I mean,
like,
you gotta understand, like as a New Yorker, that's funny.
That sounds wild.
That's
too,
funny.
right?
Yeah.
Not just you're using funny politely, but like that's just like insanitary.
Well, that too.
Right.
That too.
It was.
Yeah.
But if you
like
understand,
we're throwing snowballs, you're throwing cow patties.
Because we had snow too.
Yeah.
But like, if you understand what it's made of, it's just grass and like feed, like because you're feeding this, so it's not actually anything toxically bad. I wouldn't eat it.
Sure.
But like, it's good. Like one, it like reduces carbon somehow. Like you get me? Like there are benefits to it. You reuse it. You have to learn to recycle a lot of stuff. Like so, I would like feed the chickens. Okay. And then like go get the eggs from the hen house. And I was the youngest one, so I had my cousin like on the farm, like very secluded. So like mile down the road's one set of cousins, mile down the road's like your other cousins, but not actually your cousins. But like in Black people land, it's like your mom's friend who's not related to you, but you have to babysit their kids because that's your cousin. Yeah. But like hillbilly shit, because they don't
all
that.
White people.
Yes. Oh yeah, I'm the only one who's not white.
Right. Growing up, like
physically, I mean, I'm half white technically, Obama-wise, but one drop rule, you're black.
You said earlier that early on, like you started having to learn how to hide certain parts of you for survival, safety, etc. Like, what were some of those parts that you started to hide about yourself?
So the first thing was like, if you're familiar with Dr. Joy, last name starts with a G, but I don't want to disrespect her and say her name wrong.
Yeah, the book is called Joy G.
Joy G. Yep. A Black woman wrote a book called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. And essentially it's about how a particular type of like power dynamics of like a white person, and like even if you're adopted like a black child, right? That's your child. You treat them like a child. You tell them you're a child, but then you microaggress them because it's like, well, on the farm, me and my brother, who's phenotypically white, so he's white, I'm black. No one said the word phenotypical because we have the same dad. So one drop rule, he's black too, but like he's white passing.
Sure.
So when we make mistakes on the farm, we have a willow tree, and you have to go to the willow tree and pick a switch.
Yourself.
That's part of the.
Right.
That's what I'm like. If you know my grandma, you know it's a metacognitive trip. My grandma's a white woman. Bless her soul, Beverly. She's the rock of the family. She keeps us together. But like, it's some farm metacognitive shit where it's like, well, I don't want to manipulate you, but I want to see if you understand the lesson. So depending on what you did, you need to come back with the appropriate size switch. My brother wasn't always the most situationally aware. He has white man privilege is what I call it. So he would always go and grab the smallest one. That's stupid. I mean, well, not stupid because I want to disrespect him, but that is a mistake. You should grab the biggest one. You know why?
No.
Well, if you grab the smaller one, you're going to get more. Well, you learn that from just repetitive acts of like making
Yeah.
mistakes and then realizing, well, he keeps grabbing the same size one, so I'm not going to do that. But most brothers just follow in their brother's footsteps. They aren't even aware. I'm like, well, I'm different. Everyone keeps telling me. So I'm trying to understand, well, here's a moment. Let me grab the big one. And then I just get one. And then my grandma starts crying because she thinks she hurt me. But I'm like, oh, no, that don't works. Because if it's a small switch, that don't hurt. My mom says, I'm going to give you something to cry about. And then I stopped crying. And so I evolved to have power, like situationally.
What do you mean power? Because you just explained the situation where it doesn't seem like you had power.
Well, that's what it's like. My superpower is like my disability in the sense of, like I feel like if you believe in God, like higher power, like like divine intervention, destiny, like what's your purpose in this world? Like as a child, early on, I was blessed with a gift of being able to understand environments and not when I say control them, be aware and then
100%.
Yes.
I said that like it's very telling. As soon as you start talking, as soon as I start talking to you, instantly realize that you're aware of everything that's going on. It's like a spidey sense.
Yeah, it's a superpower, but no one told me or explained to me that I was developing or doing it. So I just thought my grandma was racist when she hit me.
But it makes sense.
I knew
like
she wasn't because she loved me.
it makes sense. So growing up though, because you had to be aware of everyone because you're like, damn, if she's not having a good day, she might take it out on me.
I have a spoken word piece about
so
that.
I need to be hyper aware of everyone and like be on her good side. Maybe I could joke around with him because he's having a really good day. He's not going to do anything. You know what I mean? So you've developed a superpower out of just, I'm getting goosebumps. Like it's crazy. Like
that's ultimately the
safety,
most,
survival. Like you said,
yeah. Well, I had to. Like that's what it's like. Anyone who's experienced poverty knows how extremely expensive it is to be poor. I'm in a lawsuit with Northeastern. I have the Attorney General for Massachusetts City Council looking at a bodega that stole $90 from me. Like, people think that I'm incompetent because I'm disabled.
I think that's the fascinating part about you. So obviously we didn't grow up together, right?
Yes.
But I knew you when you were in college.
Yes.
And the version of yourself in college
Was
like,
not with this.
I would say no, it's
I
fine.
did it though, but I'm trying to control your narrative.
You can control it after. Outside perspective, looking at you, I would say you were confident, very outspoken, not only for yourself but for others. I would call you what people call these days is like not an advocate, but
I call myself a true rebel.
Yeah, I would say a rebel. But what's the
A true one, data literate truth teller.
I love that. What's like not the advocate, but like the political sort of like person that's
Diplomacy.
No,
Obama.
It's like someone that is like out there marching and just like
King.
Damn. All right.
What? He's my chapter brother.
No.
Martin Luther King
Not
Jr.
Martin Luther King. I thought you were referring to yourself as a king. That's why I was laughing. I was like, that's a good label.
I was like, but you literally said marching, so I'm like, Brother Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I made a mistake. My fraternity brother's gonna hear this. I'm gonna hear about it now.
But like all of these things, you would assume that like early on, like you'd be fearful to like even have a voice. You know what I mean?
Why would you assume that?
Because I would assume that like if you said something that's controversial, you're like, yo, shut up. I'm gonna go back and get the switch. You know what I mean?
But like that's power.
What's power?
That if I shut up and change my behavior, then they're controlling me.
Right.
But I'm not a slave.
But you always had that?
Since birth. That's what I'm like, not birth, but like as a child, I was blessed with a gift. Like I didn't understand why I could do what I did. And my memoir is a subtext, like the subtitle. So it's called Prodigal Son. That's my line name for Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated, Sigma Chapter, 17th House, Spring 11. What up, Griff? LB?
Okay.
Duke? 300?
Okay.
And so I was in the closet and like about my sexuality because I'm gay, and then but also in the closet about my disability. So I had two closets. One I wasn't aware of. One I was situationally aware of. Anytime I was around black people, especially if you're a good-looking, light-skinned black man, I have to be careful. Because I want to enlighten you, but like if I'm drunk, oh God, I think I'm hitting on you. This is weird. I'm mansplaining to you that you shouldn't use the N-word outside of Light Hall drunk. And then everyone's like, why are you hitting on Hyro? And I'm like, I'm trying to enlighten him. Why are you so confused? Because I was so in the closet, I'm straight. Why would you think that? Everybody knew I was gay.
Yeah, that's funny.
And so, but my ignorance to disassociate about aspects of my identity is what allowed me to authentically exist. And people be like, oh no, he comes off gay, but he's not. I'd be like, oh yeah, I like titties. I mean, I said it in a different tone back then.
Oh, wait, that was the moment that you...
Well, that was just one example. I knew this was... No, but like, I say Paul. I was the first nigga to say Paul. Sorry, I'm the first person because I'm like in Black Land. And it's like, well, if you watch The Smiths,
That's interesting.
they talk about Donald Glover when they're on the mission and he's at the table with black people and he says a racist thing about Asians, but he's in character and she doesn't see that, so she takes offense. I'm like, but he's performing. I'm like, well, there's a performance around black men where you just gotta like locker room talk. Like white people, like white men, like it's modeled after it, where you just get to say what you got and there's no consequence.
Yeah.
I don't care about your feelings. Shoot the duds. It's like, come for me.
So that's so funny. So tell me more about like.
But ask Harold about that story because I used to try to enlighten him, but then I was like, oh, I was definitely hitting on him, and I knew it in my mind. Respectfully, like I didn't like assault him.
Yeah, of course.
But like when like a woman comes up to you and just starts talking to you, and you just like, what is this about?
Yeah.
Because you have no interest.
But that's interesting. The straight black men locker room talk.
Yeah.
Like you said that you started saying like pause. Like what are some other things that you started saying?
No homo.
Interesting.
Because everyone knows if you say I love you, Pabel, well, that's gay.
Yeah.
At which point everybody wants to genuinely, it's not just the words though, like it's the sentiment that scares people.
Right.
They're not, lack of knowledge around affect. Like I work in cognitive and emotion AI. Like I'm a pioneer in the field. It's kind of cool. Of artificial intelligence, building culturally conscious AI. But it's like, well, I just know these things and I have technical knowledge. So I just code computers to know what I know and see what I see. So I label it as black, cis, heteronormative, black male locker room talk. Because cis, gay, black male locker room talk is modeled after y'all's, but it's just way more explicit.
But did you have a moment where you were just like,
Don't I just learn these and then I reflect on it in therapy?
well, no, it's just like, damn, I'm saying these things, but here I am as a gay man. It's just like,
oh, I knew it the whole time, but disassociate.
but when did you have a moment where it was just like, I'm tired of doing this?
Oh, okay. When did I come out of the closet? What, like which closet?
We can
Or
talk about
all of
both.
them.
Let's talk about one at a time. One at a time.
Well, you know Griff, right? My OB. He was like,
Just got engaged.
yes, I'm going to be his wedding. We were just talking about it last night.
Shout out to him. Shout out to
Yes.
him.
Oh my God. And his beautiful wife. T. Love her. Oh my God. She's so amazing.
She's dope.
And like, I love the space he creates so that she can shine. Like I can see that. And a lot of people don't see that in black men because like a lot of people expect them to shine. And Griff's shining because like, well, she's shining. And if you know Griff, like they both shining. That's some like Jay-Z, Beyonce relationship stuff.
Dope.
So I can't wait to be in Lisbon in October. I already know what gift I'm going to get them. And I asked, well, no, let me not say that.
Well, let's get into it.
Yes. So
Yeah.
just to say, Griff is my line brother. So if you're familiar with historically black fraternities and colleges, like, he went to Northeastern together. I'm like a mentor, right? Like I was trying to get any entrance to my house, like 17th house of Alpha, and like I wasn't aware of a lot of my like I didn't go through therapy when I was in college, so I just used to get blackout drunk and tell everyone I loved them. Like just like you're showing affection.
In physical touch.
Yes,
Sure.
in physical
Sure.
touch.
Yeah,
like in America, but though that's really, really gay. But, so, like,
I
you
get what
gotta
you mean.
drunk
I get what you
to do
mean.
that. But like India, men hold hands all the time.
I do that to my male friends. Be like, yo, I love you, bro.
But
Like,
that's why I've
yeah.
always appreciated it.
Yeah.
Because like, no offense, never hit.
I gave you a hug when I first saw you.
I know.
Yeah.
It was, that's why I appreciate it.
I'm also a hugger in general.
Right,
But yeah.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
At which point, you know I'm gay, so you don't change your behavior. But you and I both know there are black men who will be like, oh, he gay, I'm not hugging him.
Oh, yeah.
That's gay.
Yeah.
At which point, that's when I learned that, like, oh, well, my level of situational awareness in building a relationship with certain types of black men. And that's where I'm like, well, if I call it trauma, because, like, why wouldn't you want to hug me? Like, I love you. Like, and I mean that. Like, you're amazing. I've been, like, looking up to you since college. Like, I don't know if you remember the fashion show.
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
You looked up to me?
Yes.
I was nothing in college.
Right, wrong.
What?
You struggled and overcame and did amazing things.
I mean, now, but in college.
No. You did. First of all, you did all of those. You. Success
I looked up to
is
you.
relative.
I looked up to you in college.
Well, thank you. Like, I wish you would have told me that.
Yeah, like I said, like
I mean,
anyway.
you showed it. You expressed it, but like as black men, we don't tell each other
No.
often enough.
No, we don't. We
that,
don't.
Like, and I didn't tell you that either, so you didn't know it. But I'm like, do you remember the fashion show where you had like condoms around y'all? Like, right? But you're laughing. That's brave act. I would never do that. One,
That's
I'm
funny.
insecure about my body.
Sure.
And women just want to objectify you at that point in your life.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
mean that in the way that my line brother Javon Griff taught me. The opportunity to create space with him.
Yeah.
Because he a very cis, you know.
Yeah.
He does locker room talk very well, and then he
Sure.
shows up and is someone different. And I don't mean disassociate, but he knows me. So he
Sure.
learned to change his behavior. So he didn't upset me because he wanted to join the house with me.
Sure.
But he was younger than me, so he really looked up to me in that older brother, younger way.
Yeah.
At which point, like, a lot of people were like, "Oh, he's using you," and I'm like, "No, that's my brother. He can stay with me for free." But then I had to learn to set boundaries. But my point is like, as black men, we don't talk about uncomfortable things. Well, I talk about everything. Ask Griff.
Yeah.
And so the opportunity afforded to me to get to know him on the level at which, like, he's my line brother and Duke's my line brother.
Yeah.
So if you know Duke, and like, you'd be like,
No,
"Wait a
I
minute."
don't.
But you know,
I know of him. Yeah, for sure. But
Thank
because
you.
of the space that you were able to create with
With
Griff,
but like on like a psychosemantic, like he felt comfortable to ask me all sorts of shit.
right, and that's when you started feeling
I was
comfortable,
like,
just like
oh,
opening up about
yeah.
things you were hiding.
Right, and then when I came to the conclusion that, like, well, I had already joined the house, so a lot of people thought it was a secret that I hid. But with disassociation, like on a metacognitive level, scientifically, that I have lots of years of therapy. I'm not a therapist, just so we're clear. I'm a computational data scientist who does a certain type of therapy. At which point, well, disassociation, like as we were talking about with my childhood earlier, like what happened at home stays at home. So I'm an abused child at home. When I go to school, I'm a scholar. Bam, magic trick. New person. That's why my sister has schizophrenia, because she was trying to do it and keep up, but like because of her trauma and the lack of like learning along the way that didn't allow to connect the dots, she literally has like multiple personalities that will, and since I know her, I can keep up, but most people think she's just crazy.
Yeah. But what was the moment with Griff that you were just like,
you're good, man. You're really good at like,
I'm keeping it on track,
right? And that's why I'm avoiding it subconsciously because
it's a difficult topic.
No, it's not difficult. It's deep.
Deep, sure.
Because it's like it's not a secret, but like I don't want everyone to know this side of Griff because he's a black man in the world that creates space for people.
Let's take it off of him though.
No, that's why I'm like, oh, it's not. It's about me. But
yeah,
I'm telling my story, and I've written about this lots of times, but this is the first time saying it out loud, so I'm nervous.
Wow.
Like, not the first time I've told people I'm gay and like, that I'm an alpha, but like, well, because he was able to be himself around me, irregardless, and he actually tried to build a bridge between him and Sean and like Kevin Opoku Jempe, who was my first mentee.
He's going to be on the podcast as well.
Yeah, I heard. Griff told me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
he built bridges of knowledge, and like he would.
I gotta get him on too.
Excuse me.
There's a bunch of people. I gotta get on.
And I'm looking forward to it. That's why.
By the way, for the audio listeners, Jordan is not telling me to get down. He's telling the dog to get down. Audio only.
I was like, but see how I'm not mindful of that?
Can you imagine someone listening who's like, "Well, get down." That's what he's doing.
But that's locker room talk, metacognitively, and you're aware of how it can be perceived. That's why I remember the banana thing that we were talking about earlier. Like,
yes.
And I was like, oh, I got that wrong because what I saw in your bravery.
Off topic. Let's get back to the topic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Griff was able to be himself, be comfortable, be vulnerable, and we built brotherhood. A lot of gay black men seek that. Griff felt comfortable to see me for me, change his behaviors to create space for me in that locker room where I'm outside drunk yelling at Hyro about why he shouldn't use the N-word, trying to enlighten him, and I'm like, well, I'm hitting on him. And I'm sorry, Hyro, by the way, because I didn't know what I was doing, because I wasn't afforded to explore that opportunity. And so a lot of gay black men seek the relationship and the ability that we're even doing right now. They might be confused in their head as they hear this, because they're like, why did he get that? And so it is a gift to be able, I'm a black man, I'm an alpha. I'm treated like it because Griff's around, and he would bring me to parties and I'd get super drunk and fuck it up, but like, I wanted to fit in, but I didn't know how. And now I know how because he's been so patient with me. That's what it's like. That's like the biggest superpower of all, to be patient and humble when your brother continuously makes the same mistake that you don't understand why you would do it. And it's like, well, he knows me. He knows that I wasn't afforded any opportunity to really dissect and learn things emotionally. And I love him for that.
Yeah.
And like it's literally saved my life. Like, I'm allowed to be a brother of this house authentically, because if Griff's around, oh, he gonna let you know. That's an LB.
Yeah.
Duke too.
Yeah. Which I started thinking about college, and you know, you said this earlier, I forget exactly how, but for a lot of people, it's kind of like, it's a brand new space where we get to create an identity for ourselves, whatever that may be. But it's also, like, when I think of you, I think of how involved you were in the black community on campus, as far as like all of the groups, as like a leader, a face for a lot of these organizations. But it's interesting comparing it to where when you grew up, where you were kind of like the only black person. Like, how did it feel being black in college?
Oh my God.
I know it's a loaded
I could
question.
write a dissertation. I have so many spoken word pieces about that exact subject.
It's a loaded question.
It is.
But
I love
was
it.
there
No,
way
there's
more pride
absolutely,
at that point?
absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
if you read James McBride's Color of Water, it's like a black man's. It's a memoir for like a black man's like thanks to his Jewish white mother. But his was really rooted in religion. My mom did not do religion, though we did go to black church, but they didn't really like gay kids there either. So like growing up, I learned how to disassociate. I don't know if we have to be quiet. I don't know if sounds work. If I have to be mindful. You know when the airplane goes over, so you stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're done.
Yeah, that's what's happening.
That's fine.
I'm learning. I'm so nervous to make a mistake and mess up your podcast. That's how much I respect you, though.
Appreciate it.
So, but basically, when I went to college, like I'm from a farm, and so I was like, I want to get as far away from here as possible.
And you want to go into a city?
Yeah. I wanted to go where black people were.
That too.
No, that's what that's what I told myself. I picked African American Studies because I wanted to learn about black people. I didn't know what a major was.
Did you think about like HBCUs?
I never heard of a HBCU. If I did, I would have went to Morehouse.
Yeah.
I would have been like, I was following Brother King. Well, at the time he wasn't my brother, so I was like, but I know Dr. King. Like white people love Dr. King. That's all they talk about. Like we had a whole convocation. We did I Have a Dream speech every year in high school. I was president of the Student Multicultural Club, but I was also Kanye.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
No, excuse me.
Right.
I get it.
So you remember when Kanye said George Bush doesn't care about black people? That like defined his, like I wore a shirt that said George Bush doesn't care about black people to my school. And my AP science chem teacher, a white man who loved Ronald Reagan, was like, how dare you, like made the whole class about not AP science chem, but about, I don't know, humanities and racial. I'm like, you wanted to psychoanalyze Kanye's lyrics. He was like, you know, he believes Ronald Reagan introduced crack to black people. And I was like, well, he did. And then in my head, he hit me, but like, they're not allowed to hit you in school, and we're in the city. On the farm, they could. And they can make you eat soap. They can make you do all sorts of weird shit. But it was like, it metacognitively hit me. He wanted to punch me. You can tell when someone's like, yo, I'm fighting. You're embarrassing me in front of the whole class. I'm like, I came here for science.
Right. Why did you wear that shirt?
Because he was expressing what I saw. My uncle at home, when Hurricane Katrina was happening, my uncle, Jeff, I'll say his name, but we don't talk. We're not allowed to, because when I try to help him, he exposes his racism, help him evolve, expand. He's a fixed mindset. He has white male privilege, and all the white women in his space, especially my grandma, doesn't allow him to grow. Like it's a thing. It takes a village to do that. Yeah. And so when he tells me he is mad that I pointed something out, well, there's no amount of words. He said we shouldn't talk. I was like, cool. But like growing up, I lived with him because my mom left us, and so I just lived with people until I graduated and got away. And he would say racist things to the TV.
You said got away.
Yeah.
You didn't say moved out.
Yeah.
That's deep, man.
I wanted to get as far away as possible. Like I wasn't allowed to say it. I wasn't allowed to feel it. My mom used to tell me, smile, we're taking a picture. Look like you're having fun. And I'm like, but I'm not having fun. And then she hit me and I smiled, took the picture, and then I went back to not smiling.
Yeah. So,
because you can't control me. So
was it easier to smile when you got to school?
Well, yeah. Well, I disassociated. I'm a whole different person. I'm happy. I know all the answers. God forbid someone ever call home. But I'm a true rebel too. So I got in trouble. My mom hit me when I went home and asked me what did I do. Actually, no, she didn't. Not for that story.
Like in school during holidays, you mean?
Not during high school, because my mom left at that point with the George Bush thing. But like at that point, I was on the school board. I was president of the clubs. Like I had notoriety, so I had power socially. So I just told them I wanted a new class, and they gave it to me because they had to. He violated my space to feel comfortable, to be judged appropriately. Oh, white men have been doing that my whole life, making mistakes to give me Fs when I earned an A because Joey Clark is different than Jordan Clark. Joey's not even black. How did you confuse us? Oh, but if I don't get that A, then I don't get the social ice cream celebration because they just do what's on the report card. Even though he's going to cross it off, write in pen that he made a mistake, well, I don't get the reward unless I go advocate to say, well, hey, look, I had an A, it's a 4.0, but that one F because Joey's not that smart.
So early on, academics was a way for you to celebrate.
Oh, that was my identity. Oh, I didn't make that clear. My brother is the football one. He's the athlete. He's huge. Play football.
Yeah.
Like they cheated for him in school. Not my parents, the school. He got a full ride to some community college. Like he got away, and then he came back because he didn't have the skills.
Right. But besides you being,
so I was the smart one. I knew everything.
Yeah, interesting.
And then when my brother tried to kill me, my grandma came and saved me. But I didn't know she saved me. I thought she was rewarding him by letting him live with her. Because no one talks about it. It wasn't until like last year, actually. Actually, it was a few months ago. My aunt told me that, well, you know, Grandma went to get Kareem because he was going to kill you. And I was like, well, I didn't know he was going to kill me when he shot the gun at me because we used to just fight a lot.
Shot a gun at you?
Absolutely. I grew up on a farm. We shot BB guns at each other all the time. But it wasn't a BB gun that he shot at me this time.
Why did he try to shoot you?
Because I used words. Power. He was trying to make fun of me, and I was trying to help my little brother with his homework. And we would fight over him because it was him, me, and then Nathan, my little brother, he looks like me, so he's black, but like also looks up to his older brother, so he's like a middle brother.
Sure.
And then my younger sister, and so it's always me and my sister, and then them two, and then my little brother would come sometimes, so it's 3-on-1. So I was like, we're gonna whip cream. Well, whipped cream, right? Like Cool Whip. But like he's white and he got whipped a lot because he was stupid. I didn't even know it was like slavery related or whatever because it wasn't. He's white. They never hit him. He's Thomas Jefferson's child, right? Like he is privileged. At which point, would you come back and save us? Because there's the house Negroes, the field Negroes, and then the passing Negroes. But because if you know African American studies, which we don't teach people, you would know that my brother could have used his privilege to create space for me.
Yeah.
But because I wouldn't know how to use my superpower, I did what a younger brother would do. I would use my words and make him feel bad. But I didn't say anything too mean,
Because you didn't have the physical strength, right?
So
you
could
use your
and
words.
then I locked myself. I made fun of him. He got upset. And
That's really interesting
Yeah.
at an early age. Not only are you being celebrated for your academics, but you're realizing how like David and Goliath, let's call it. Right?
Yeah.
Because in a way, like you're smaller stature compared to this
Yeah.
very tall, strong man. But you notice the power
He's
of
a
like
boy, by the way.
a few single words could still impact someone that deeply.
to change their regulation and behavior to cause them to. Yeah, I knew he was going to get mad, so I ran and locked myself in the bathroom. And then he literally punched through the wall. Right, he was real mad. He's tired of getting whipped, like metacognitively.
Verbally, sure.
Well, not verbally. It's not, the words weren't going to get me in trouble, nor was the sentiment. I didn't do anything wrong, Kareem. I was just joking with you. Locker room talk. My mom didn't understand that I was being a white woman to him in ways that, like, I didn't know what I was doing, but it was manipulating him to his emotions that, like, not to say that women manipulate women all the time, but if you understand emotional regulation on a metacognitive level, you can do things to people who only have knowledge. But if they don't have knowledge, they don't even know what they're doing it. So I knew he was going to get upset, but I didn't know he was going to get that. It's a social science experiment.
Yeah, but what would you say that get him that upset?
Whipped cream. We're gonna whip
that's what
cream.
you-
Like basically we were like, me and my sister were like,
jokes like
yeah,
that,
make
yeah.
fun of him, but like we make fun of each other, and then like my little brother would make fun of my sister too much, and then she would like try to kill herself, like just casually, like grab a knife and like scream or cry, like very. That's what's like, as a child, like I didn't know how to do everything, and my mom was working, so I was at home. Like once my brother moved out, like it was me. I was the older brother now, which I think is what I wanted, and like that weird power dynamic way of like, well, if you don't talk about it, it looks like I manipulated him, but I didn't know it. So when he broke in the door, I was like, what the fuck? So I grabbed the hairspray, sprayed it in his face, ran past him. Yeah, I was like, oh, he gonna kill me. Like this, like on some like, I hope, like in your head, your brother's gonna kill you, but you wouldn't think he actually was gonna kill you.
Right.
So I was like, oh, when I say he's gonna kill me, I'm just saying that in a brotherly way. Like, I need you to understand it was like fear, but like, oh, we're joking, right? Like we're just.
Right. Might get roughed up a little bit.
Yeah. But I'm like, you can't catch me.
Right.
So then I ran, and that's when like I was running down the street. I wasn't looking back, but I heard a shot. I assumed he shot in the air.
Right.
I'm just like laughing, like ha 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 ha. And like then grandma comes and takes him, and he moves out. My mom beats me and tells me I have to sleep outside.
Wow.
No one told me that he tried to kill me.
Until recently.
Yeah, until I was like telling my aunt about how I love my grandma so much, how she's a rock. But like she did things for Kareem that I didn't understand. But as a teacher, I learned it was accommodations. She was trying to meet him where he was at. Like, so my brother wasn't smart academically.
Yeah.
And so because he was an athlete, people wouldn't care if he was smart or not. They would get the grade, at which point it enabled the behavior, which like I think a lot of black men in the community can understand because, well, if you see him as black, well, now they're just abusing him for his size, like a slave.
I mean, a lot of the same stuff happens in like entertainment as well, right? Like we allow, not you and I, like as a society, we allow certain behaviors if they perform well. That can be for musicians, for actors, like all these sort of like celebrity-esque And in high school, the celebrities are oftentimes like the jocks.
I was a jock too. I was on varsity football. I was trying to follow my brother's footsteps.
Yeah.
But no one gave me acknowledgement for it. I only got acknowledgement for being smart.
Yeah, so you leaned into that.
No, I didn't.
Didn't?
I leaned into athlete.
Really?
Yes. I played track, ran track. Not played track. I ran track. Sorry, it's a joke with track where you're like, you don't play track, you run track. I played football. I was on the debate team. I held a job. I was basically president of every club at at Lewis and Clark because I didn't want to go home. So I just was busy. I would occupy space and time so I can control it. And like, well, when I mentioned Kanye earlier, because it's like, well, everybody loves Barack Obama. Like I worked at the White House. Like I learned about myself in reading Dreams from My Father, metacognitively before I even knew what metacognition was. And then when he signed the book, oh my God, I loved it. I gave it to my nephew, and then like I worked at the White House, and like we can get there because it was a Northeastern thing, but ultimately, I was aware that I had the superpower, but like because I didn't have all the information, the story was like, well, I'm trying to like not make great grandma sound racist, but when I tell black people about like farm life, they think grandma's racist. Why would this white woman tell this black man to go get it with? Right, wild. But like my grandma loves me. She's trying to save my life. Like black people, post-traumatic slave syndrome, hit. I always go to beat, but then I lose a lot of people. Well, no, you hit, and then they go, no, I just spank. I'm like, what is spanking? Hitting. But metacognitively, it's not, because that's all you knew. I used to say I'm nonviolent like my brother King. Well, he wasn't my fraternity brother then, but I would be like Dr. King, I'm just like him. I want to be nonviolent, but I always, when I was straight, like, because I didn't understand that I was gay. I didn't know what gay was. Yeah. But I know you can get beat for it. I knew the black kids will say, you walk gay, and make fun of you for it, but what is gay? And then they're like, well, why don't you understand? But no one would ever take the time. Tell Javon Griffin.
Speaking of college, I think that's another interesting point. We'll skip through some things, but you also start thinking through.
So I disassociated when I went to college. I was a new person. I started all over. I told people I was from Boston.
You started telling people.
I literally asked anybody freshman year, Serrano, my neighbor who's a Kappa, or Kirsten. Kirsten, just lay down, she's a Delta. But like they were the few black people who lived, it's Northeastern. We were on the leadership floor, Spear Hall. Right, left side, odd side, I think, and basically, they were like the microaggression, college like back in the early 2000s was like Facebook was still relatively new in this concept, so you would know people online but not actually know them. And then so everyone was a celebrity, meaning, well, you added me, but now what do I do? What do I like? Do I walk up to you and say, hey, we're friends on there? Is that weird? Like, so we were all like trying to get to know each other, but everyone would always come up to me, didn't matter, and they say, well, what are you? And I was like, what do you mean?
And that's the first time you were just like, wait, I'm obviously black, right?
Because I was always black my whole life. I was the blackest of black.
Right.
And then people are like, no, you weren't.
And now this is the first time people are like questioning it.
To the degree of to the degree of like, well, you don't sound black. You don't like, I didn't experience any of those microaggressions. Because the white people in Spokane are more culturally competent to know not to do that. Now, they did a bunch of other ignorant shit, don't get me wrong. Like, I wore that shirt, and then they got upset, and then I didn't get picked for this thing in high school, so I painted my face white on Halloween and wore a shirt that said, would you vote for me now? Like Kanye. And then on the back, it said, like, 2006 Spoo Crew, which was the name of the, male cheerleaders. Well, I said 14 RWK. I thought it meant rich white kids, because only the kids who lived at the top of the hill got to do it. But I didn't realize that, well, for me, the front of it was race, because I'm black, that's why. But on the back, it was socioeconomic. But they thought it meant racist white kids, so they were all upset. And I was like, oh, I got your attention. But then no one could answer the question. I didn't understand why they were upset. I thought it said rich white kids, and you thought it said racist white kids. Because when I say you're a rich white kid, you're cool with it. But if I call you racist, you're upset. And I'm like, well, aren't both of them wrong? Affluence and giving you access to things, that's called legacy admissions.
I mean, being a rich white kid isn't wrong, but being a racist white kid is. It depends how you use your wealth.
Right, that's right there, wrong.
But there's nothing wrong with being a rich white kid.
There's nothing wrong with the social construct of being afforded privilege, absolutely.
Sure.
But they weren't aware that they were afforded privilege that gave them access that I could not have.
Oh, sure.
Because I lived at the bottom of the South Hill.
Sure.
So I was poor too. So it wasn't just being black that denied me access, because I was the student body vice president.
I get it.
The president was also black. He didn't get it either.
Sure.
At which point, well, no, it was black plus poor.
Sure.
But they weren't allowed to see that because that privilege afforded them the opportunity. They live at the top of the hill. They all went to school together. So they were just picking their friends. Yeah, but those 6 don't do anything. There was a criteria and an outline. So when I did that thing, lashing out because I didn't feel heard, because I stayed up all night waiting for them to do that like cheerleading kidnapping thing where they're like, oh, now you're cheerleading and kidnap you and you're gonna like haze you, but not really haze you, like indoctrinate you into this tradition.
But sorry, let's get back on track with the
It's
school,
a mirror of same thing happened in high school that happened in college.
What do you
but
mean?
I dissiociated, so I had a new identity, but I was still president of shit. But I was more black. I studied African American studies, the only one in my major.
What do you mean? The
Meaning at orientation, you know, when
the
they're
only
like
black person in your major?
only person,
So the major was just you?
just me.
What?
Yes, 2006
You mean?
at orientation. So I thought maybe there was others at the other orientations.
Oh, you talking about just at orientation?
No. Well, when they did orientation and they said African American Studies, I was the only one who stood up and followed them with the sign, you know, to your department. I was the only one. But then I was like, oh, well, there must be other ones because there's other orientations. No.
Wait.
That year, I was the only African American Studies major.
Wait. So you went to class and it was just you?
No. You have to have diversity credits, so other people outside of
just with the major,
Right.
Because I was
you were
economics major, but
that is
maybe
a
I've
popular.
taken
Yeah.
I've taken an African American course
because you had a diversity requirement because Northeastern requires people to be well-rounded.
That's interesting, but that's fascinating.
Right. At which point, what did I do wrong?
But when so a
Apply.
lot of people go to school and they think, all right, well, I'm going to study something to get a job. You didn't think that. You were just
getting away. Well, I was getting away, and I knew I was smart. So, what do you want to study? Is what my counselor, my second counselor, because the first one was a white man. He wouldn't do. I asked for a new one because he told me I wouldn't get into Northeastern. He said you should apply to
school?
Yeah. He said you should apply to safety schools, state schools. I had full rides to University of Washington State. I already know I got in, full ride, but I want to get away. I wanted to go to BU. I got denied twice. Well, that's where Dr. King went. So I applied early decision, early action, whatever. The one that was binding, they said no. Regular decision, no. Best decision of my life. But like Princeton Review told me to apply to Northeastern. I didn't hear of it, but I applied. Paper decision, because that's how old I am, right? Like filled out a paper. And my counselor said, well, what's your major? I said, what's the major? She said, what do you want to study? I said, Black people. She said, African American Studies. I mailed that application last postmark stamp date, like literally ran to make sure that it got stamped in time, like picked up, watched the mailman pick it up. Like I was so afraid if it don't get postmarked, they will deny me.
Yeah.
And then I got in, got full tuition, and I ended up getting so I got in, and then that's where I was like, Northeastern was the best thing that ever happened to me. It changed my life and afforded me opportunities to even just do this.
Same.
But no one explained to me that that's what college was for. I just thought it was if you're smart, you go to college.
Right.
And my plan that got me through all of my childhood trauma was like, oh, well, I'm going to go to college and get away and then everything will be fine. And nope, that was also a facade. And I also struggled to exist there too, but because of how I was socialized in this very particular way, and Northeastern afforded me the space to get drunk and explore my sexuality without feeling like, and it was just one of those Black men aren't afforded opportunities to make mistakes. I'm not saying I was trying to do it, but when you think about being in the closet, if you read a lot about it, for your sexuality, kids were dating in middle school. And I was never allowed to. I knew that a lot of my best friends were cute.
When did you start dating?
Oh, when about exploring, going on dates or having a boyfriend. Never had a boyfriend.
Going on dates.
When Griff moved to DC.
You moved to DC as well?
No, I was stuck in Boston, but he moved to DC, so I went to move in with him, help him move, just as a brother, not moving with him. But I was so proud of him, and so then that was the first time I picked up a man and got his phone number in the grocery store aisle.
How did that feel?
Oh my God, amazing! Because I watched Duke and Griff, and they were very gifted in getting what they wanted. Sure. So they want a number. This is what you do as an alpha man. You walk up to her, and they thought they were trying to help me be straight. But I was like, oh no. I learned my line brother very well, both of them, especially 300. So I was like, yo, I like your shoes. And he was like, oh, thank you. He was an aisle 13,
and you were like, oh, that worked. Oh.
Right, at which point we're talking.
Yeah, you were like, that was my only line.
Well, because I knew that even though I was straight, I was like Hyro, I know we talked about it, but I was like, oh, I was just talking to him. So it was easy as casual.
Right, I could do that again.
Right.
For somebody
But now I'm like, well, I'm going to get his number on some yo, can I get your number?
Yeah.
So I changed my energy, at which point it's DC, so I didn't know that he was used to gay men hitting on him. So I thought he was gay too because he created space for it.
Yes.
I was like, shit, man, I don't care about your shoes. But he was like, oh, they're running shoes. You want to join this running group? I was like, yeah, let's do that. It's a date. Try to be slick. He was like, okay, yeah. Gave me his number. I went to the running group. Oh, he's clearly straight.
Yeah, yeah.
Did not know that. But then I made a group of friends, and that's when I went on a journey to running. Yeah, and I lost a lot of weight, like started going to the gym, taking care of myself, because it was the first time. I eventually moved to DC, by the way. But that was just like a weekend. I went to the club, and I picked up somebody and brought them home.
But that first instance,
that was the
gave
first
you
one.
The confidence.
Yeah, that same night. Like that's why I'm like, I was out.
The grocery and then the club. The same
night. I got the number at the grocery, and then they were like, yo, bros. Where we going out? Like, I'm feeling myself. Like, I'm never like. That's why I'm like. Now I understand why Griff and Duke got so excited to get dressed.
Yeah.
Why they struggle to keep their eyes on me when I'm talking. I don't care about her booty.
Right.
But they're like, oh, I'm impressed.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, beautiful woman, but like, talk to me. Why are you distracted? Oh, now I get it. Yeah. Now I'm distracted. Look at that beautiful man.
Yeah.
What were you saying? And they're like. Getting mad at me because now I'm doing the thing that they did. But I was a little late to the party.
Yeah.
So then when I went to the club, but I was testing my brothers too.
Yeah.
It was a test.
What about, because something else that you start exploring, as many people do in college, is like, what am I going to do career-wise?
Yep.
Right?
I thought I was going to be a lawyer.
I remember you taking the like studying for the outside.
I wanted to be Obama.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a politician.
But eventually, I think like you enter the workforce, right?
Co-op at Skadden Arps, a law firm.
How do you think you were received for your authenticity in professional fields?
White people loved me.
Interesting.
They basically thought I was white.
Why do you think?
Because I knew how to exist in them naturally. I made it comfortable for them to talk to a black man without showing any effort. Like my whole life, I had to be aware of how my words and the order in which I choose them. So I was allowed to be Kanye. I got in zero trouble for doing that. Because when they put me in the office, they're like, oh, what would you feel if a black kid or a white kid did blackface because he didn't join the basketball team? I was like, I'd let him do it. Because I was ignorant. I didn't know that was racist. I didn't study black people. But I was like, freedom of speech. That was my whole point. And they were like, we're going to expel you. I was like, cool, I'm on the school board. I eat lunch with those people.
Wait, but this was in
high school.
No,
high school.
But
what my point is like I have that privilege. I was afforded network and access to be powerful and like use it for good.
Work, you mean?
Anywhere I went, including work. So when I was at Skadden Arps at the law firm, I would tell people they were being racist to their face, comfortably.
Really?
But like I was like, oh, that was a racist act.
Right.
Because I'm studying it now, so I'm getting better at separating the act from the individual. So now, because of my lived experience that gave me the awareness, like a gift, a blessing, tools, but college afforded me the opportunity to learn how to use them. And then,
but. And there's one thing of you saying things and being comfortable doing it, but how were you received though?
Everyone loved me.
People still loved me.
Because I wasn't a true rebel then. I was just a rebel. Like I pushed the boundary, but I didn't understand why some white people did what they did in response to some of my words. I just know they did it.
What do you mean?
I would get accommodations in undergrad, but I didn't understand I had an invisible disability. But like people were nice to me, so they're like, oh, you can have an extension, you can have this, mainly because I asked. And a lot of black people didn't ask. They were afraid. And I was like, why? They're just words. Like they could say no, but they didn't feel like they were afforded to say no. I say sit to white people all the time and tell me no my whole life. So it doesn't bother me metacognitively. In my head, I've already decided what I want to do.
To receive a no.
Yeah. At which point you craft your own narrative. I learned the NU shuffle meticulously.
I love that. That's one thing about you. It's kind of like, what's the worst that could happen? Someone says no.
At which point your feelings get hurt, but if you're aware they're just feelings and you can regulate, and that's where I'm like, oh, well, I didn't know that's what I was doing my whole life.
So that's an interesting point about accommodations in college, receiving them and being received well, but then when you get to a certain point professionally,
you see,
it isn't received as well, and you're just like, wait, why not? Like,
literally came out of the closet of my disability because like it's invisible, so that's a privilege, kind of like white privilege or white passing privilege.
And do you want to say specifically what that disability is?
Yeah, absolutely. I have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder from chronic childhood poverty. But it's the intersectionality of my marginalized identities that affords me the opportunity of perspective.
And when you say coming out, you're saying like
it's invisible, so like no one knows I have it because it's not mobile disability. It's not like even like spectrums of autism. If you have certain characteristics, people will be like, "Oh yeah, you are on the spectrum."
But you say coming out, you're saying you actively had a conversation and say like this.
I had to, because when I was struggling with my job in DC, the first time I got fired, Well, actually, it wasn't the first time, but got fired and not understood why. Well, I got diagnosed by a black woman, like a neuropsychologist or whatever, like fancy. I'm like, I don't know, health insurance told me I had to do these things to get legal accommodations. Because my manager was manipulating me. And I didn't know, apparently, like, after hindsight, she was jealous. She thought I was trying to get her job. I was like, I don't want your job. I'm trying to fix a problem. And so people weren't able, because they didn't understand me, they didn't know why I did what I did. And then they
Like, you just want to solve this problem.
Yeah, the
but
graduation
other people,
rates.
But other people see it as a threat.
Yeah.
Because, like, you're doing, because you solving the problem
is
is
altruism
also
a little bit.
doing amazing work
Yeah.
that they may not be doing.
It
And
is,
someone else
yeah.
can be looking at it and be like, wait, but like he reports into you, why aren't you doing this kind of shit?
And
It's a
I
little threatening.
don't, but imposter syndrome's like my best friend. I don't feel, like, I know I'm smart, but I don't feel smart.
Yeah,
I wasn't
and
a-
you're just like, oh, I didn't even know I can take your job. I didn't
Yeah.
even- yeah. You're just like, I'm trying to make all of us look good.
Right.
Yeah. Or I'm
But
just trying to help our
it
students
shows
or
that
whatever.
my manager didn't trust me and lacked the skills to create inclusive action, to create space, to even understand that she would just lash out whenever I made a mistake. So like in therapy, I'm like, well, that's when my mom hits me.
What do you mean lashes out?
She would send emails at 11 o'clock at night because I made a mistake of I started learning that like, oh, I could use my Apple Watch for accommodation. I could say, hey, send a reminder to like leave this meeting on time so I can get to the next meeting on time. Little basic stuff. But we have a shared calendar. But like the reminder went to the wrong calendar, and so then she got upset that there was something there that shouldn't have been. So at 11:58 at night,
That's
yep,
such a small,
I'm up.
That's such a small thing.
And I'm up doing work, trying to solve this problem. But I don't want her to know. But then I see that email, now I'm upset and I can't sleep. Trying to figure out what words I need to say to her to help her understand I made a mistake, trying to accommodate myself so I don't get in trouble for being late.
Yeah.
it's-
What are some other accommodations that come up in the workplace specifically that you receive pushback for?
Recording.
What do you mean?
So legally, like, because my brain is hypervigilant, like in Northeastern when I was in grad school now I know I have. So after I got fired, I went back to grad school as a Martin Luther King Jr. fellow. Basically, like, I even had to fight to get that there. But, like, they knew that at least that was allowed. In the law, workplace, like, even, like, a service dog in college, they love that shit. There's no problem. Because everybody's aware that they need to be inclusive. But in business, well, if it upsets the business or disrupts the business in any way, the way the law is written, businesses can push back. Now, my manager didn't trust me. Well, I don't trust you either. That's why I want recordings. But I can't say that. Because it's not related to, it is related to my disability because it's psychiatric. So I'm worried about you misconstruing the facts and then being like, well, I didn't say that. And it's small to you, right? Like, oh, semantics, the laugh. I speak white women. You know exactly what you said when you did that. And I have the recording. And so if it disrupts the workplace, everybody has to be okay with it. But if I bring my service dog, well, it doesn't matter if you're allergic, you have to leave. So there are certain rules where the ADA like goes and doesn't, and so, but recordings was the most important one for me because I just want the freedom to know that I remember everything that you said. I had to. That was the only way I could be Jennifer, my mom. Like she's like, I didn't say that. I'm like, damn, you're right. You didn't say that. You used a different word, and then she would smirk, and then hit me. And so rather than let people hit me, I just wasn't wrong. I learned to not be wrong, and I mean that like respectfully. Like I'm human, but people forget that. And then so they confuse, they think, how are you disabled? You're so amazing. I'm like, oh, thank you. I don't feel that. It's part of my disability. It keeps me humble.
Tell me about a time, because one is pushback, right?
Yeah, all
What
the time.
about,
Legal violations of the law?
let me tell you, maybe like retaliation is a word that comes
Oh,
up.
all the time. Like, so that manager would say things in meetings like, do you need to have do you need to go to therapy right now? Well, yeah, it's the same time every time. But like, it's inconvenient because we were in a flow of a meeting, but like, yep, I have to go. Now I definitely need to go. And that's where I discovered that, like, well, now that people know I have a disability, they're treating me differently because I have to do things differently, but you're not allowed to do that.
Meanwhile, they
do it anyways.
They tell you like, no, we won't treat you.
Gaslight, yeah.
Right.
And then, like, the most recent one with Boston Public Schools, it resulted in me having nightmares that I was a slave in my head. Where I'm like, literally the definition of post-traumatic slave syndrome, where I wrote you remember I did spoken word? That was like a healthy outlet that I didn't know was basically therapy.
Yeah.
But I did a spoken word piece after my manager sent me a bunch of emails in the day because even though we have a shared calendar and she knew I was in meetings from 11 to 3 and I effectively communicated to her in one group channel, she sent me several DMs and messages and, oh, just bumping this up on your email. I said, thank you for teaching me that at 3:01 because I was in meetings from 11 to 3. Yeah, I saw it, but I need to focus. But she expected me to respond immediately, which is a triggering thing for me because you're trying to control me. She wanted to know where my physical location was. She didn't care that I was doing the job. I had to do it at the office. That's the rule at Boston Public Schools.
Yeah.
They treat you like slaves there. If you mess up, oh my God, you can get fired. That's why there's such high turnover rate. People are so metacognitively afraid that they don't even want to meet with me because they being seen with me. Oh, the overseer knows. Or I'm sorry, my director. And guess what my manager's name was? And she was a white woman. Jennifer.
Your mom.
So it was really hard for me that they were treating me this way and they didn't even understand it.
Yeah.
So I had to learn to forgive them.
Did you also learn to communicate some
I
of these
went through the
feelings and
ADA.
emotions to...
Well, the space was not created. Every time I tried, she ran away. She knew that what I was doing when I didn't realize they were manipulating me because I was depressed. I was experiencing a depression episode because I was trying to get a different job. I've had several jobs. I had a job with the United States Security Exchange Commission to be a data scientist for the leading eternal to the chief data officer. My point is like offered full, like signed contract through Northeastern alum as a contractor. Then I was asked if I do illegal drugs. I have a medical marijuana card. I have to be honest, like I'm not gonna get caught because Claudine Gay, if you're Dr. Claudine Gay, if you're a black man, you make a mistake later on in your career that you didn't think about, and you didn't do what Barack Obama did, put it in your book, well, then that's all white people are gonna talk about.
But here you are taking the right steps, legal.
Telling you the truth.
Telling you the truth.
And then they say, oh, sorry, your card expired. Well, yeah, I'm not paying for it. It actually provides no benefit. You just get discounts, at which point I don't really care.
It's legal now.
Right, but Biden, not federally, it's not. And it's a federal job.
Yeah.
And so because I was honest and because I was the most money I've ever been offered, 6 figures.
And that's probably something you didn't even have to disclose.
I didn't even apply for the job. I applied for a junior level data scientist role at the company. And because he realized I was really smart, he was like, no, I have a better offer for you. And I didn't even think. So then I thought the credit check was going to get me fired. Like, because not fired, but like open the door. Because if you work for the federal government, they have to determine if you're a good citizen by how you pay your bills. But I learned from Jennifer, who grew up experiencing poverty, like white trailer, trash. I can say that because I'm also like, I don't want to be respectful of white culture because I'm not white. But like, just to say that no one taught us how to use money, spend money. We got, like when my grandfather died and we sold the farm, millions of dollars. My family was millionaires at one point in our life and everyone squandered it, including Jennifer.
But that's fascinating that you think about, like I often say professionalism. It's just a skill or competence expected for a role. Meanwhile, there are certain industries or institutions that value other things outside of just skills and competence, like your credit score? Like who knows?
To determine if you're a good character. I grew up experiencing poverty.
I'm sorry, how does my credit score determine how well I'm good at
Excel? Because they want to know if character.
No, I know.
But they want to know if you are, and I read it, because I read it, I was so afraid I learned all of it.
Yeah.
Well, they want to know if you're honest. Yeah. So I haven't paid student loans since I graduated. But as
loyal,
soon as,
dependable.
So I started paying I got all my stuff in line when I was doing the application. It took 4 months of like, because I worked for the White House, so I understood like background checks. But as an intern, they didn't really care.
Well, that's the funny thing too. It's kind of like you have the valid, like, bro.
But
I've worked for the White
pedigree.
House.
I have the pedigree.
I work for the White House. Yeah, I can't work for this. You know what I mean?
Yep. Because I'm a black, and I'm like, how many black men work for the United States Security Exchange Commission? Yeah. Let alone what they were doing is they needed help with their data governance, like their framework to make sure that like people are being included. I worked at a crypto company. I was a data analytics year for a fellow. Like I had 3 jobs that summer, but it was like I could do lots of things because I have lots of knowledge, but it's like, well, I have to be able to be myself. That's why I love what you're doing. Because if I can't be myself, then you're just using me.
And you want my best output, right?
Right.
So let me give you my best output, but it's going to come with me.
Literally and metaphysically cannot do work if I'm not able to be myself. That scares people.
Are you confident, or actually, how confident are you that there are actually spaces out there for you to work and be yourself?
They don't exist. I have to create it myself. That's why I'm an entrepreneur now. I'm a CEO of a global enterprise solution and cognitive and emotion AI. Sorry, it's like a character. But I'm like, well, most people think it's fake when they hear it.
So you just don't think these spaces exist?
They don't.
You're just like,
because people lack skills. I don't expect people to understand what it's like to have a service dog. I just learn to be polite when I correct them.
By the way, can you tell the audience what I did to your service dog?
Oh my God, I like walked to talk to the owner, by the way. She's the owner.
Yeah.
And like just let her.
The owner?
Yeah.
Oh fuck.
But she doesn't want people to know. She said that. So don't feel bad. That's why I was wondering why you didn't know, but she was hiding in plain sight.
Her.
You should. Yeah. But like my point is I went to go warn her and then you started petting my service dog when I turned around back.
Yeah.
he has a sign, like legally, he doesn't have to wear a vest. But I wear a vest so people know, and it has, they're not stickers, they're Velcro.
Patches.
Patches, thank you.
I put, and the pictures are on Instagram as well.
Okay,
for the
perfect.
people,
One side says I'm working, it's in red. And then next to it says PTS service dog, do not distract. And then, well, what does distraction mean?
That's why I was,
And
yeah,
hear
that's
me
what I was
out.
going off.
If he's a trained service dog, most people's knowledge of are the robotic ones, not the one with personalities. So they know not to go to you or to look at you. Well, Rio's still learning, and Massachusetts has really good laws that are inclusive. That, like, because he's trained to provide tactile stimulation at night for me, he is legally a service dog. And then if he's public access, you know, he's not growling, barking, like he's doing well too. Then he can be in training everywhere I go, even if, because other states that don't have that, he could only work at night and he can't go out in public and be protected.
Got it.
Because he's not trained to provide a service when I know how to exist around people. It's the night that I struggle with.
Meanwhile, you leave me alone with him.
And then on the other side, though, to Babel's offense, there's another sign that says psychiatric service dog. It says, do not distract, do not pet, stop.
Yeah.
And so he didn't see that side.
And I, just like
A microaggression happened. Ableist microaggression is how I would label that when I reflect on this experience. And then once you, similar to teaching, well, once you identified someone made a mistake, well, what do you do with it? And like, well, one, I made a mistake in time, so I was feeling bad. So I was like, oh, that's a simple one. You're good.
Yeah, but also you educated, like that was an educational moment.
Enlightenment.
Like, I think people are so scared to just
Make a mistake.
make mistakes. And thank you for allowing me to make a mistake and learn from that opportunity. You know what I mean? But I think, yeah, you know what's funny? If I had a record for mistakes that I've made on a podcast episode, this is it. Let's go over this.
Right, but I'm just like, yo, that's, I get where you're going, but
Anyway,
but that's metacognitive insight, what you just did right there. Your ability to be aware of, oh, I got new information now, I'm looking back and I'm seeing, and that's why I love what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because you have privilege that I don't as a heteronormative cisgendered black man that women like to objectify. Right. Thank you for receiving it that way, because as a gay black man, I don't want to tell you look good, because that's weird.
Yeah.
But it's because that's why the banana thing, where I'm like, well, why are you afraid to be perceived? Oh, it's not. It's the Javon Griffin, where women will take something and then misuse it in ways you don't even know, so you have to think about it. And I don't say misuse it, but like, oh, I thought you were flirting with what's her name in the chat, and that's where I was like, oh, you're right. I didn't think about how that. And so it's like, I forget, because if I'm not around Javon enough and I level up to remember what it's like to be in locker room talk, I'm like, when we locker room talking, when we're not.
Yeah. All right, so fascinating conversation.
Yeah.
To wrap things up, right? So thank you. You're obviously continuing to grow. We're not finished. We're still
lifelong learning.
Lifelong learning. Like, what? Despite all of these experiences where a lot of pushback, sometimes even retaliation, like, what inspires you to continue being your most authentic self in these spaces, which are obviously difficult?
Yeah, they were not designed for me. It's not that difficult if I get enough sleep, drink enough water, and take care of myself.
But what inspires you to continue being yourself?
My mentees, like the youth who face challenges that I never had to. If I can just say one person, Miguel, he's my Minds Matter Boston mentee. He's Guatemalan American immigrant, if I'm speaking that correctly. He's born there, but first generation here. So you talk about that a lot on your podcast. But he's white passing too, and so helping him. He went to Match Charter School. He has a seal of biliteracy, smart kid, bright, but like a true big brother, like a brother in ways that I could never do. So I learned just being afforded the opportunity to guide him to college. Got a full ride to Wesleyan University, killing it. Just finished first semester, 3 A's and a B minus. So when I called him on the phone and he was like, I was like, how's it going? He's like, I'm like, yo, your affect is not matching your set. Like, what are the facts? Like, what? And he didn't want to tell me his grades. I thought he was failing. So I rented a car. I drove down there like 2 days ago, and I helped him with his humanics class, data science. I was like, I know this stuff, but I also know how to teach multilingual learners. And he was struggling with simple things like vocabulary. He didn't know the difference between computational and computer. Well, it's a small thing, but he didn't want to raise his hand and ask because everybody else got it. So just things that I wish people afforded those opportunities, create space for me to ask questions. Yeah, I do that.
You want to be the representation you wish you had?
Yeah, I wish but I had a mentor, my legacy mentor at Northeastern.
Yeah. But look at how long that took for you to get.
Right.
You know what I mean?
11 years of journaling, 7 years of data.
You wanted to be that representation at a much early age, which you are.
Yeah, I
appreciate you for doing that.
So I just feel blessed that
you're
have
making
me
my
here.
life easier.
Well, or harder.
No.
Thank you.
I mean, I said this to someone yesterday, but every episode for me is just like, I want to show people that it's okay to be themselves and they can do well in life.
Great space.
Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Mi gente, that wraps up another episode of the Quién, Eres podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, please do us a favor. Like, share, comment wherever you're listening to this episode. Be sure to follow, subscribe, and leave us a rating and review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Thank you, and see you next time.